In today's episode, I will once again show you 6 locations with disturbing, mysterious backstories. But before we begin, if you enjoy narrations of various mysterious and strange stories, then I would appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to the channel. With that being said, let's get into it. Diplomat Hotel. Originally built in 1911, the building served as a seminary and later a school for the Dominican Order of Priests. Its architecture is a blend of Spanish and American influences, reflecting the colonial past of the Philippines. However, what truly makes this location disturbing is not its history as an educational institution, but the dark and violent events that occurred within its walls. During World War II, the Japanese Imperial Army invaded the Philippines, and Baguio City became a strategic location. The building was converted into a makeshift garrison and became the site of numerous atrocities. It is said that many people, including priests and nuns, were tortured and killed here. The most gruesome tales involve the beheading of prisoners and the brutal killings of women and children. After the war, the building was abandoned for a time before being repurposed as the Diplomat Hotel in the 1970s. The hotel quickly gained a reputation not just for its luxurious accommodations, but also for the eerie occurrences that guests reported. The most common of these involved strange noises, such as footsteps echoing through empty hallways and the sound of children crying. The staff, too, were not immune to these experiences, often speaking of feeling watched or suddenly cold in certain parts of the building. One of the most infamous stories associated with the Diplomat Hotel is that of the headless priest. According to legend, this apparition is one of the priests who was beheaded during the Japanese occupation. Witnesses claim to have seen a figure in priestly robes, clutching a candle and roaming the hallways at night. The most chilling part of the sightings is that this apparition is said to be headless, with the candlelight revealing the gruesome stump where his head once was. Theories about why the Diplomat Hotel is so haunted vary widely. Some attribute the hauntings to the violent and tragic history associated with the site. The sheer number of deaths and the intensity of the suffering experienced by those who were tortured and killed are believed to have left a strong emotional imprint, creating what is known as a residual haunting. In such cases, it is thought that the energy of past events is so strong that it continues to replay itself, much like a video recording, regardless of whether or not the spirits involved are still present. Others suggest that the hotel's location on Dominican Hill, an area known for its spiritual significance, even before the seminary was built, could be a factor. Some local beliefs hold that the hill was a sacred place long before colonial times, possibly a site for ancient rituals. This has led to the theory that the Diplomat Hotel is situated on a portal or vortex, a place where the veil between this world and the next is particularly thin. In recent years, the local government has taken steps to restore the Diplomat Hotel, aiming to turn it into a heritage and cultural site. However, even these efforts have been met with strange occurrences. Workers involved in the restoration have reported tools going missing, unexplained cold spots, and even seeing shadowy figures moving about the building. Some believe that the spirits are unhappy with the changes and are making their displeasure known. Whether one believes in the paranormal or not, there is no denying that the Diplomat Hotel exudes an unsettling aura. Its tragic history, coupled with the numerous reports of ghostly encounters, make it a compelling destination for anyone interested in the mysterious and the macabre. As restoration efforts continue, It remains to be seen whether the spirits that are said to haunt the Diplomat Hotel will finally find peace, or if they will continue to intrigue and terrify future generations. Council House of Enfield. This otherwise ordinary residence, located at 284 Green Street, Harrow, became the epicenter of a series of inexplicable and terrifying occurrences that captured the attention of the public and the media, even serving as the inspiration for a popular horror franchise. The haunting began in August 1977 and primarily involved the Hodgson family, particularly the two daughters, Janet and Margaret. It all started innocuous enough with strange noises. Knocking sounds emanated from the walls at all hours, seemingly without a source. At first, the family dismissed these disturbances as pranksters, or perhaps issues with the old house's plumbing. But things quickly escalated. Furniture began to move on its own, and objects were thrown across rooms by unseen forces. Witnesses reported seeing a chair levitate and move several feet across the room, without any visible force acting upon it. The most disturbing aspect of the Enfield poltergeist was the physical manifestations that appeared on the children, especially Janet. Witnesses claimed that Janet was levitated off her bed, and she often reported feeling an unseen presence holding her down or throwing her about the room. The occurrences became so frequent and severe that the family sought help from the police, local clergy, and even the press. One of the most bizarre elements of the case was the vocal phenomenon. Janet began to speak in a deep, gravelly voice, entirely different from her usual tone. This voice claimed to be Bill Wilkins, a previous occupant of the house who had died there. The voice recounted details of Bill Wilkins's life and death, information that the Hodgson family could not have known. This aspect of the haunting led to significant media attention. The phenomena were investigated by paranormal researchers, including Maurice Grosse and Guy Lyon Playfair from the Society for Psychical Research. They documented numerous incidents, including objects being thrown, strange noises, and the levitation of Janet. One of the most chilling accounts came from the family's neighbors and independent witnesses who corroborated the strange occurrences. A lollipop lady working outside the house claimed to have seen Janet hovering above her bed, while others reported seeing objects moving inside the house from outside. The events were also witnessed by a police officer who signed an affidavit affirming that she had seen a chair move across the floor without any physical explanation. As with many cases involving alleged paranormal activity, the Enfield poltergeist attracted its share of skeptics and debunkers. Critics argued that the phenomena could have been faked, pointing to inconsistencies in the testimonies and suggesting that Janet's voice could have been a manifestation of dissociative identity disorder or a prank. The skeptic Joe Nickell and psychologist Anita Gregory were particularly vocal, arguing that the evidence was insufficient to support the claims of paranormal activity. Despite the controversies, the case remains one of the most well-documented instances of supposed poltergeist activity. Subsequent residents of the house have reported a sense of unease, and some have claimed to experience minor disturbances, though nothing on the scale reported by the Hodgsons. The story of the Enfield poltergeist has since become a fixture in popular culture, inspiring books, documentaries, and films, including the 2016 movie The Conjuring 2. The case remains a subject of debate and fascination, with believers convinced that it provides evidence of life after death and skeptics dismissing it as an elaborate hoax. Whether viewed as a genuine paranormal occurrence or a curious psychological and sociological phenomenon, the events at the Enfield Council House continue to intrigue and disturb. Lawang Sewu. Nestled in the heart of Indonesia stands an imposing colonial-era building known as Lawang Sewu. The name translates to 1,000 doors, a moniker derived from the building's architectural design that includes a multitude of large windows and doors. Built by the Dutch East Indies Railway Company between 1904 and 1919, this vast complex served as the headquarters of the railway company. However, its serene beginnings belied a darker, more sinister history that would soon unfold within its walls, making Lawang Sewu one of the most infamous haunted locations in Indonesia. The building's dark history began during the Japanese occupation of Indonesia in World War II. Lawang Sewu was commandeered by the Japanese military, who converted it into a headquarters and a prison. The basement of the building, originally intended for storage, was repurposed into a dungeon where prisoners were subjected to horrific torture and executions. It is said that the Japanese forces used brutal methods to extract information from prisoners, often leaving them to die in squalid conditions. This period of suffering left an indelible mark on the building, with many believing that the restless spirits of those who perished continued to haunt the halls. One of the most infamous stories associated with Lawang Sewu is the tale of a young Dutch woman known as Noni. According to legend, Noni was a beautiful woman who worked in the building during its early years. She fell in love with a fellow worker, but their love story ended tragically when she discovered he was unfaithful. Heartbroken and distraught, Noni allegedly took her own life in one of the rooms within Lawang Sewu. Her spirit is said to roam the corridors, appearing as a forlorn figure in a white dress. Visitors have reported seeing her ghostly apparition, often accompanied by the sound of sobbing as she relives the sorrow of her untimely death. Another chilling tale from Lawang Sewu involves the headless Dutchman. The story goes that the soldier was one of the many victims executed in the basement of the building. His decapitated body was left to rot, and his head was never recovered. To this day, his ghost is said to wander the building, searching for his missing head. Witnesses claim to have seen a headless figure walking the hallways or standing at windows, casting an eerie shadow in the moonlight. The basement, known as the bunker, is perhaps the most notorious part of Lawang Sewu. It is here that the Japanese military conducted their most heinous acts. The dungeon-like atmosphere, with its dark, narrow passages and heavy iron doors, adds to the sense of dread. Many visitors report feeling an oppressive presence in the bunker, accompanied by sudden drops in temperature and the sensation of being watched. Some have even claimed to hear the faint sounds of chains clinking and distant screams, as if the anguished souls of the prisoners are still trapped in a cycle of torment. Despite its reputation as a haunted location, Lawang Sewu has also become a popular tourist attraction. Its eerie charm draws visitors curious about its ghostly legends and dark past. The building has been preserved as a cultural heritage site, and guided tours are offered to educate visitors about its history and architectural significance. Tower of London. The Tower of London, an iconic fortress nestled on the banks of the River Thames, has stood for nearly a millennium. Built by William the Conqueror in 1078, this imposing stone structure has served as a royal palace, prison, treasury, and even a menagerie. But beneath its storied history lies a dark and disturbing past, filled with tales of treachery, execution, and ghostly apparitions that continue to haunt its halls. One of the most chilling stories associated with the tower is that of the princes in the tower. In 1483, Edward V, a mere 12-year-old boy, and his younger brother Richard, Duke of York, were sent to the tower by their uncle. However, the boys were never seen alive again. Many believe that they were murdered on the orders of their uncle, who later ascended the throne as Richard III. The fate of the princes has remained one of history's greatest mysteries, with their skeletons allegedly discovered in a hidden staircase within the tower centuries later. Their spirits are said to wander the corridors, seen holding hands and dressed in nightgowns, their faces etched with a look of innocent despair. Another infamous resident of the tower was Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII. Accused of treason, adultery, and incest, she was imprisoned in the tower before her execution in 1536. Anne's ghost is perhaps the most famous of the tower's spectres. She has been spotted numerous times, often carrying her head under her arm. The most famous sighting occurred in 1864, when a sentry claimed to have seen a ghostly figure approaching him. When he challenged her and received no response, he lunged with his bayonet, only for it to pass through her form and hit the wall behind. Terrified, the guard fainted, and the incident was thoroughly investigated by the military, confirming the authenticity of the encounter. But the tower's hauntings aren't limited to these well-known figures. Another spectral resident is the Archer, a ghostly figure clad in medieval garb, who roams the grounds with bow and arrow in hand, as if perpetually guarding the fortress. The tower also holds a gruesome history of torture and execution. The infamous Traitor's Gate, once the entrance for many doomed prisoners, has witnessed countless arrivals who would never leave the tower alive. The Bloody Tower, as its name suggests, was the scene of numerous executions. Torture devices like the rack were used to extract confessions, leaving behind an aura of pain and suffering. Adding to the tower's eerie atmosphere is the legend of the tower's ravens. According to superstition, if the ravens ever leave the tower, the kingdom will fall. To prevent this, the birds are kept in the tower and are carefully looked after by the yeoman warders, also known as beefeaters. The legend is taken so seriously that at least 6 ravens are always kept at the tower, their wings clipped to prevent them from flying away. The Tower of London is not just a relic of the past, but a living museum of British history, steeped in mystery and legend. Whether you're a believer in the supernatural or a skeptic, the Tower of London offers a glimpse into a world where history and legend intertwine, leaving an indelible mark on all who visit. Ryugyong Hotel. The Ryugyong Hotel, also known as the Hotel of Doom, stands as a haunting monolith in the skyline of Pyongyang, North Korea. This massive, pyramid-shaped structure began its journey in 1987 with the ambition of being the tallest hotel in the world. However, its towering presence has become more of a ghostly legend than a symbol of luxury and prestige. The hotel's story is one of grandeur, mystery, and eerie silence, shrouded in decades of secrecy and speculation. The government aimed to open it for the 13th World Festival of Youth and Students in 1989, but construction halted in 1992 due to funding issues and structural concerns. The collapse of the Soviet Union and the resultant loss of economic support for North Korea further exacerbated these issues. The incomplete building, with its sharp angles and hollow interior, stood as a silent reminder of failed ambitions. For years, the hotel remained an unfinished shell, devoid of windows, fixtures, or any signs of life. One particularly eerie aspect of the hotel is the mysteriousness surrounding its interior. For many years, no one outside of the North Korean regime knew what the inside of the Ryugyong Hotel looked like. The absence of any official tours or photographs left room for the imagination to run wild. Some stories claimed that the building was structurally unsound, with entire floors unsafe for human occupancy. Others suggested that it housed secret laboratories or was a hub for surveillance. The Ryugyong Hotel's ominous nickname, Hotel of Doom, reflects the aura of mystery and unease that surrounds it. The hotel's dark, looming presence against the Pyongyang skyline has become a symbol of North Korea's isolation and the unpredictability of its regime. Its towering structure, visible from nearly every part of the city, serves as a constant reminder of what could have been, had circumstances been different. Beertoel. Covering an area of approximately 800 square miles, this barren land has the peculiar distinction of being one of the few places on Earth that no country actively claims. This geopolitical oddity arose from historical border disputes between Egypt and Sudan, which resulted in both countries renouncing sovereignty over this strip of desert. In 1899, the Anglo-Egyptian Condominium Agreement set the border between Egypt and Sudan along the 22nd parallel north. However, a subsequent administrative boundary adjustment in 1902 placed the Halaib Triangle, a more valuable piece of land along the Red Sea, under Sudanese administration, while Beertoel was given to Egypt. This adjustment was intended to reflect the usage of land by local tribes, but it inadvertently created a unique situation. Sudan claims the 1899 border, which would give it the more valuable Halaib Triangle, while Egypt claims the 1902 administrative boundary, leaving both countries uninterested in the arid Beertoel. One of the most curious facts surrounding Beertoel is the phenomenon of micronations. Over the years, several individuals have laid claim to Beertoel, each declaring it their own sovereign state. These claims are often humorous or symbolic, but they highlight the peculiar allure of this unclaimed land. In 2014, an American man named Jeremiah Heaton traveled to Beertoel and planted a flag, proclaiming it the Kingdom of North Sudan. Heaton's whimsical claim was inspired by a promise to his daughter to make her a princess, and while it was not taken seriously by the international community, it did spark widespread media interest. But the story of Beertoel goes beyond its legal status. It is a land devoid of permanent human habitation, with an environment so harsh and inhospitable that it has earned a reputation as one of the last true wildernesses on Earth. The landscape is dominated by scorching sand dunes, rugged mountains, and a sun that blazes relentlessly. There is no significant vegetation, and the area's scarce water resources consist mostly of sporadic wadis that dry up quickly in the desert heat. Yet, despite its inhospitality, Beertoel has not escaped the attention of adventurers, explorers, and even dreamers. With that, today's episode comes to an end. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to check out the rest of my channel. There, I've amassed even more creepy stories that sound an awful lot like this one. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.